Most people know that I've been a community pharmacist for 50 years. And in 50 years, I've never had a violation of the DEA or Controlled Substance Act. I never had any violation at all. So for 50 years, I followed the rules of the FDA and DEA. I've even had DEA in my office and said I did a good job. But marijuana, most of those years was Schedule 1. So you can see where I'm coming from, that I wouldn't be really susceptible to voting for marijuana because for 50 years I was trying to follow the law. Now today, medical marijuana means the whole plant. And today, I know there is merits for medical marijuana. There's 60 to 70 compounds of THC in that product. And we as Americans, when we take a dose of a medicine, we take that dose because it's research tells us that's the average dose for the whole population. The trouble with marijuana is you can't guarantee any percentage. Even when they make a gummy, they use ethanol to pull it out. You can't guarantee that percentage. And not only that, I'm a big advocate of safety and efficacy. In the Kentucky Constitution under the Bill of Rights, it says, Section 1, going for the basis of my speech, is safety. It says the rights of life, liberty, and worship, and the pursuit of safety and happiness and free speech. So that Constitution we took a vow to means something to me. And I read that and I said, I got to be in the pursuit of safety, not only for myself, but the constituents that I represent, and for everybody in the state of Kentucky. You know, when I used to teach microbiology, and we first discovered Streptococcus pyogenes, it's the one that gives you the sore throat, we found out it produced an enzyme that would dissolve a blood clot. And for many years, when somebody would have a clot in their brain, they would give them that, it's cheap enough, and it would dissolve that clot. Now, the first people said, a bacteria doesn't have any merits. But like I'm telling you, medical marijuana does have merits. But the problem is, the reality is, we don't have sufficient scientific evidence that marijuana has all that evidence to support all these claims. We talk about Parkinson's, but most people don't even know which part of the brain is deteriorating in Parkinson's, and that Parkinson's disease always goes forward in areas reversed. But there's insufficient scientific evidence that marijuana is even an effective pain relieving agent, or that it is, the magic word again, safe and effective as a medication. Now that is why in 2020, I filed in this honorable body, and they passed overwhelmingly, House Concurrent Resolution 5. And that called for the additional research into the potential medicinal properties of marijuana, and it advocated for the FDA to ensure timely research. Now, the lady from Kenton 64, and I co-sponsored the Bill 590, set up a research center at UK. We were amazed at how fast it grew and how they're getting money into it and what they're coming out with. And Dr. Marsh and I served on the Opioid Trust Fund together, and it's amazing what UK is coming up with. So amazing that 2 days ago, a personal friend of mine is president of the Senate in Utah, said, if Kentucky can do it, we can do it. And they followed our example in Utah and started a research center. So thank you, lady from Kenton. Good idea. And Oklahoma passed bills wanting to know what potency of THC is. So our UK Research Center is very valuable and should be asked a lot of these questions that we have here today. But in that resolution, this honorable body acknowledged that though a majority of states had enacted a so-called medical marijuana, the decisions of those states have been political decisions that lacked a careful scientific evaluation of the benefits and the risk of marijuana's use. But this honorable body resolved that we would take the higher ground of developing evidence-based policies regarding medical marijuana, safety, magic word again, and efficacy. And now we got other states following us. Now, today, each of us is being asked to decide whether or not to forsake that pledge if you're able to afford it. Personally, I want to say it again. Marijuana has merits. It has merits. I'm not against medical marijuana. I'm for safety and efficacy. As for me, I'm not willing to ignore the lack of sufficient scientific proof that marijuana can be, the magic word again, safe and effective for medical purposes. And by the way, the reason opioids are down where people use marijuana in those states is because the DEA controls the amount of controlled substance like hydrocodone that's made today. So that's not a true statement. There is an organization called the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws where they're trying to remove all penalties. And this is a quote from Norm's Admission, the founder of Norm's Admission. He said, the so-called medical marijuana is a red herring to give marijuana a good name. As for me, I'm not willing to forsake the pursuit of evidence-based policies regarding medical marijuana. Safety again. But even if I was willing to forsake the pledge I made just 3 years ago, I could not vote for SB 47, this bill, as the vehicle for marijuana legalization because of its many flaws and enforcement shortcomings. One, in the committee sub in the Senate, they removed pharmacy altogether. Not because that's my vocation, not because I practiced 50 years, but let me read you something. Senate Bill 47 fails to include the pharmacists altogether. If proponents of this legislation want to treat cannabis as medicine, then they need to ensure patients receive the same standard of care, which means safety again, that they would expect when initiating taking traditional medications. You mothers, when you give your child amoxicillin, how you know that dose is right? Okay? By excluding the role of the pharmacist, a medication expert, SB 47 circumvents safety measures, the magic word again, that are in place in today's healthcare system and will lead to unintended consequences. You know, that was one of the first 2 words I ever learned when I came here. I sat over there beside Mr. King, and they kept always saying we had unintended consequences on every bill we passed. But there is unintended consequences if we don't put the pharmacists back in this program, and soon. Among the most alarming flaws of SB 47, and I found about 52 items. I have read the bill probably 7 times. There's 124 pages. I worked all last week on it while we were off. Among the most alarming flaws of it is the legalization of marijuana for children and the requirement that use be allowed on the campuses of the Commonwealth's elementary and secondary schools. Now, here's the bill, and if you want to follow with me, with the one you have, I only got about 5 or 6 examples, because I have 52 I could use. Page 18, line 20 through 24, says this includes preparing raw plant material or brewing tea. Now, medical marijuana, as I told you before, is the whole plant. So on the street, what do they smoke? Raw plant? Yes or no? Yes. Okay? So that's on page 18. It is the whole plant. Page 15. No minimum age, lines 22 through 26. It says, arrest or qualified patient who is under 18 years of age shall not be permitted to possess, purchase. So there, they're saying there is no minimum age going that way, down. So an infant could get it. the way that's written. Page 25, at the top of the page, it states his or her status as a cardholder, unless failing to do so would violate federal law or regulations and cause the school to lose a monetary or licensing related benefit under federal law or regulations. Sound familiar? So, and then lines 6 through 12 requires the use at primary and secondary schools. Religious schools are required by that line 3, if they get federal money, to uphold this law, and private schools. Let me go on. Page 26. Page 26, line 15. If you want to look it up. Under B, it says, diagnose the patient or a confirmed diagnosis provided by another healthcare provider with a medical condition for which the medicinal cannabis practitioner believes that the patient may receive therapeutic or palliative benefit. No safety, no stats, no data. You know, I'm a pharmacist. I could believe any drug in my pharmacy would help you, unless you're diagnosed. But he just believes there. And then up the top of that page, it allows other people to have an interest or investment in the agreements. So it could be somebody out of state on line 4 and 5. One more. And of course, it was brought up about vapor. Vapor is on page 54, lines 6 through 9. Okay, so I won't read that one to you. I got one more page. If my fingers work. Okay. Now on page 38, we're talking about the cabinet, what they can do. 3 times it says the cabinet may deny. Don't say shall deny, may deny on enforcement. The cabinet may conduct, on line 24, the cabinet may conduct a criminal background check of any applicant. It's not required, just says may. So I have 52 of these things I could read to you, but I know you're bored with that already. But if you've read the bill, you know there's 52 in there. This is a bad bill that's written, but it's going to pass today because I think the medical marijuana has merits. I just think it ought to be better, the law of the state of Kentucky. If we got states copying our research center, why can't we have the best medical marijuana bill in the country? So, in conclusion, I cannot and will not play a part in introducing children to a Schedule I drug that the government considers to have a high potential for abuse and a gateway drug, or it wouldn't be Schedule I. Now, during the COVID crisis, the black internet went in and checked all the THC products out because they had plenty of time. They found that one THC was called THCP, and it said on the CB1 receptor side 31 times more than regular THC. So if you use any drug or substance and you have withdrawal, then it's addictive. Now, I believe in the 5 trade name products that we have. We got 3 for nausea. We got 1 for multiple sclerosis in Great Britain. We got 1 for seizures. I believe in those because they've already been through safety and efficacy. And I believe in the merits if it's only been proven. But then I look back to Section 1 of the Kentucky Bill of Rights. And our forefathers said we should have the pursuit of safety. And that's part of our liberty and our free government, that Constitution is written. So I'm not here to say all medical marijuana is bad. I'm here to say it's got merits, but we got the wrong bill up. So your vote is your choice, but my famous quote from John Quincy Adams is, "The duty is ours." It was my duty to tell you those things. The results are God's. Thank you.